Hi, Greg Jarrett, and you are in the strategy room. Well, time is running out for Congress to avoid a shutdown at the Department of Homeland Security as lawmakers try to figure out a deal. The Justice Department on Monday asked for an emergency court ruling that would allow President Obama's immigration action to go forward. Joining us now with political reaction, strategist Adam Goodman, Chuck Rocha. Adam, let me give you the first crack at this thing. How do you handicap the potential for a shutdown?
Not very great. I don't think anyone wants to go that way, certainly not the Congress. But the bottom line on the immigration debate is we have a lawsuit with 26 states behind it objecting. The president, when he doesn't get his way these days, either resorts to executive order or he just starts moving ahead. And what's in play, Greg, as you know, is essential de facto amnesty for 5 million illegal immigrants. And actually, even worse than that, a suggestion and almost an inducement to those who have not yet crossed the border to cross the border, come when you may, no consequences. And at some point, we have to have a considered immigration reform policy that we all get behind and rally behind, as opposed to the politics of Washington dictating lack of movement and paralysis.
You know, Chuck, 22 separate times President Obama said that his executive action on immigration would be illegal and unconstitutional. When a federal judge recently agreed with him, the president says, the judge is wrong. How do you make sense of that?
I'll make sense of it by saying that if he took full amnesty and took all 11 million and tried to make them citizens, that would be very much illegal. But the path that he took was the same path that Ronald Reagan took and 20 other presidents before him. There's a process that we have to go through, and these people that we're talking about, while we have the Republicans holding our national security hostage over making people whose sons and daughters fight in the wars. There's 87,000 parents of military officers that fall underneath this, who we're saying are not good enough to be American citizens, but their sons and daughters are good enough to die in war? That makes no sense.
You know, Adam, do you think this, and bear in mind that the Supreme Court does lean right, do you think this is going to end up being fully litigated in the courts?
Well, that's where it's heading right now, and it's messy. I think Americans, regardless of what their feelings are on immigration, have been beseeching Washington to get their act together and get something done. And unfortunately, Greg, we continue to see a lot of horror stories coming, especially from our southern border, with human trafficking, drug trafficking, drunk drivers who kill law enforcement officers, and a directive from Washington most recently, where the president says to Border Patrol agents, start working more like social workers as opposed to law enforcement. I think we got to get our act together here, and we have to get it done before we have to resort to a long, drawn-out court case with uncertain outcome.
Yeah. Back to the machinations in the U.S. Senate in particular. You know, Chuck, is it the Democratic strategy here to hold out and in the end divide Republicans?
Well, it's a good strategy just politically. It's horrible for the country, but politically it's great for Democrats because they can highlight Republicans being anti-immigration, which slash means anti-Latino. We have two borders. There's one in Canada and one in Mexico, but all we ever talk about are people who look like me, Latinos, Mexicans. So Democrats will use that to get Latinos and Mexicans like me to vote for them by showing that the Republicans are anti-them.
Yeah. You know, Adam, as we wrap this up, it is the Democrats who are actually the ones who are holding this up in the U.S. Senate, and yet it appears as though Republicans will get the blame in the event that there is a shutdown. Why is that? Is that because the GOP isn't very good at explaining itself and selling this to the American people?
Well, I think in terms, Greg, of the political issue here, it's class warfare all over again. I mean, basically all of us want an answer. We're not getting it. I think we're all frustrated. And I listened very carefully to what Chuck was saying as well, and he makes some very good points. I mean, there are stories of people that that come across the border who have tremendous impact, would have tremendous impact on this country, but it's unfair to those who came here legally, who went through all the process of citizenship, and they're paying their taxes, and they're giving back to their community, that we suddenly make new rules for everybody else and the ones that they were expecting to live by. Let's get this right. Let's take politics out of it, and let's get moving again.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in two different places, actually three on Capitol Hill, the White House, Congress, and across the street. at the Supreme Court. Adam, Chuck, good to see you both.
Thank you.
For the latest on the DHS funding battle, stay with FoxNews.com. I'm Greg Jarrett. Thanks for watching.